Can you guys see me? Ooh, technical difficulties, darlings. Can you see me? I know you can see each other, but can you see me? The camera seems kind of fuzzy, doesn't it? Okay, good. You can see me. Good, good, good. So what I was saying is, hold on, let me see if I can get the camera to focus back here. Does it look like it's focused? Oh, there we are. The eyes. We're talking about the eyes. How the eyes don't really change. I think that's what we're talking about, right? And so that's part of the recognition, right? Is that when you meet someone, you can be looking at them, and all of a sudden, like who they are in this life kind of disappears, and all of a sudden you're back in that other lifetime with them, right? And that can be a really powerful experience to have. So past life eyes, which are the same as this life eyes. But that's part of the power of recognizing people, you know? It's like, wow. That's what they call love at first sight. It literally is love at first sight. But it's usually not new love. It's usually old love. It's old love at first sight. Yeah. Okay, cool. Stephanie Cole, I have so many questions about dreams. I'll try to keep it limited. What does it mean when you have a dream where you can tell you're dreaming, but you can't wake up or get out of it? By the way, so when you ask multiple questions in these sessions, I only answer the first question. And that's because if I went, some people ask like 5 or 6 questions in their questions, and I don't have enough time to get to all of them. And I want to make sure I get to everybody's questions. This could go on for 8 hours if I did that. So if you write in with multiple questions, just know I'm going to pick the first one and answer that. And then if you want to ask the subsequent questions in the next month, you're welcome to do that. But it's just because of time. Otherwise, I would love to answer every question you have. So I'm going to answer the first one. So she said, what does it mean when you have a dream where you can't tell you're dreaming, but you can't wake up? It's like I'm stuck. So this is called sleep paralysis. Sleep paralysis. And I want to explain, at least as far as I understand, what happens during REM sleep. Okay? So during REM sleep, you have 2 chemicals in your brain that cause your muscles to not become paralyzed, but to become relaxed. You have like built-in muscle relaxants, right? And so sleep paralysis is actually you lucid dreaming or active dreaming during REM sleep when your body has put your muscles into something of a suspended state of animation. And the reason your body does that is so that if you're having a dream of running, you don't wake up and run and like smack into a wall. Lucid dreaming is actually a protective, or sleep paralysis that is a result of REM sleep and leads to the inability to move during active dreaming is actually a way that your body creates a protection buffer for you. Does that make sense? So it's really interesting. Now there's a fine line, right, between that and experiences that people have where they feel like they're being held down or they feel like they can't breathe, right? Like they feel like there's something on them or pushing on them, which is a little bit different. For me, that moves from the realm of autonomic sleep paralysis, which is a result of brain chemistry during the REM cycle. And that moves into something else where I feel like it is possible to have attachments, entities that do things during the night. And we talked about this in class yesterday. Interesting. Lauren said, I had a lady teach me how to stop and back up in my dreams to take a second look at something. How do you do that? Like it's rewinding a tape. I think that's really, really cool. Yeah, we are back. Okay, so I do, and I said this yesterday, yeah, there's this whole idea of the succubus. I mean, I don't want to, it's been interesting watching the news over the last couple of days because there's a doctor who's been getting a lot of attention for her conversations, and we're not going to talk about that here, but, she was talking about the succubus and the idea that there are these little night creatures who come and, do terrible things to you in your sleep and stuff. It's almost too wild to even digest. But, you can see how the news has treated somebody who talks about the succubus. They had a field day with that yesterday that I could see. So I'm not really believing or trusting in the news, and I definitely don't necessarily believe in the idea of a succubus. Although I will tell you, as crazy as that sounds, my background is in comparative literature and history and religion, and I'll tell you, the succubus is mentioned in many, many, many historical texts, dating all the way back to the medieval period and behind that. So it's not like this just came up or this is new or something. But I will tell you this, it is part of our culture. But I don't want to debate the existence of it here. But what I will tell you is she didn't make that up. I mean, there is a lengthy and robust body of literature about that subject. There was actually a graduate class when I was finishing my master's degree on the succubus. And there's enough literature to fill a whole semester where you could take a whole class focused on that. So anyway, I mentioned that because I do think there are instances. Yeah, no, she did not make it up. I do think there are instances where people have a presence that disturbs their sleep existence, their sleep experience. And what I said yesterday, I stand by, which is you got to stay safe. Spiritual work is no joke. It is not to be taken lightly. It is a very serious thing. Conjuring anything, opening yourself up to anything, asking questions that you're not ready for the answers for. We've talked about this before, but I play it excessively safe because I do think that we know very little about the multidimensional realms. I mean, if you ever do plant medicine, it will change your experience, and I have done it a lot. So that's why when I tell you about these things, it's like I'm kind of speaking from that space. But as soon as you lower the veil between this world and I always say it's like right outside your window, right? But it's literally like it's right here. And as soon as you lower that veil and you can actually see what's going on the other side, a lot of these questions slip away because you see the duality. I mean, it's not theoretical anymore. It's like, oh, that all exists in the universe. It all exists in the universe. And the universe is polar, right? Light, dark, yes, no, everything is there. So when you exist in a polar, dynamic, multidimensional universe, and you exist there as a human being who is the least evolved form, right? Like we are here with like amnesia, right? We gotta go slow and roll with a lot of humility because some of us have past life memories, and then we do plant medicine and we start to kind of understand. And then we get kind of bold and we start going, well, I don't have to open a circle. Well, I don't have to do this. Well, I don't have to. And it's just like, I think staying safe is still really, really an important part of the process. That was a long answer to your question. So it could be, your sleep paralysis could be the result of that brain chemistry dynamic where your body is just naturally going through its cycle of REM, rapid eye movement, which is the cycle of sleep. It usually happens about 60 minutes into the process of sleeping. And then REM cycles tend to be anywhere from 15 minutes to 60 minutes. They kind of get progressively longer as you go through dream time. And not everybody does REM. In fact, if you want to know what sleep deprivation is, it's actually the lack of REM. So people who consistently have no REM cycle can actually feel really exhausted and sleep deprived because they're not going through that natural phase. They're not getting that full body relaxation that comes from the release of those brain chemicals. And so I think that has an impact on the psyche too. So it's a mixed bag. Every term that we're using today, sleep paralysis, sleep disorder, all these things are sort of modern ways of trying to put language around phenomena that we don't fully understand. In my opinion. For what that's worth. It's like, I love talking to my neurologist. My neurologist is the head of neurology at Cedars-Sinai Hospital here in Beverly Hills in LA, so it's one of the best hospitals in the world. And she's so humble. She's always like, Athena, we don't know. We don't know. When I ask her these big questions about MS and the brain and the nervous system and stuff, and she's always like, well, this is what we think. We don't know. It's just like, okay. It's humbling, isn't it? Let's see. Let's see. So I'm going on to Sarah Kraft. Okay. I'm glad you guys made it Sorry for that. I don't know what happened. My internet was fine. I believe sunlight does release melatonin, but I don't think we produce enough to have the effect. That's why people take melatonin supplements. So Sarah Kraft asked, I've heard it said that our dreams were given to us for a reason. My question is, how do we know they are true or go about them? It's an interesting question. I have 3 children from 3 different relationships, narcissistic, mentally abusive, addictive tendency types of men. Yet I've always envisioned and wished of the day that all my children were mine with sole custody and I could go anywhere as I please with them. The way things have been with their fathers is a constant headache and entanglement of schedules and negative energies. I can imagine that. I have been told from a psychic that my ex will always be a thorn in my side but won't be consistent enough to stay in my child's life without supervised visits. However, that would only be one of my 3 kids and is technically not settled. How can I take my dreams and encourage manifesting without intentionally hurting my children when I just want them to be safe? How do you know when we have to re-envision if we are given these dreams or ideas? That's an intense question, right? Can you guys see me okay? I just want to make sure. We're not lagging now, are we? I think we're okay. So let's think about this. I mean, when you have children from different relationships, these are entangled contracts. And I would go so far as to potentially see or think that maybe those relationships all have some kind of cosmic connection. It wouldn't surprise me, even if the partners didn't know each other in this lifetime. I wouldn't be surprised if there wasn't some entanglement from a previous lifetime. So I think one of the things to remember with manifestation, and in my opinion, you must always do this, okay, is ask that you manifest in alignment with the highest good of the collective. Sometimes people forget that detail, but the reality is, at least in my experience, you don't really want something that doesn't benefit everybody. Do you know what I mean? I've just always thought of it that way. Prosperity, love, peace, health, so that what you bring into the cycle is actually of benefit, and not just to you, but to the collective. You can say to everyone on this planet at this time, or you could say, in alignment with the highest good of me and my children, right? Remembering too, and this is what's really tricky, kids have their own soul contracts. We always think we want to save our kids from this and save our kids from that. And I even, with Stephanie's beautiful daughter, part of me, I sit with the same question. This is her, she's chosen to come in this way, right? And we all choose these paths. And I have found that to be a source of some relaxation in my life. You know what I mean? Like, I'm here to guide, support, nurture, protect my kids. I'm not here to actually control every aspect of their lives and their realities down to the, micro detail, because they did choose this. I mean, when Zoe was very, very sick, she almost died a couple of years ago, right? Some of you are new, may not know that, but my daughter was very sick. And at the time I was like, why? And then I went into Journey and I saw why she went through it. And I was just like, it all made sense. And then in Journey, what I got from the plant spirits was, you can love her, but stop trying to interfere here. You know what I mean? Like, take care of her and protect her. But if she doesn't have some of these experiences, she's not going to fulfill this other part of her soul contract. And when they showed it to me, I was like, of course she has to go through this. So I'm here to protect and nurture and make sure I get her moving in the right direction, and she's much healthier now. But if she hadn't gone through that, if what I saw in Journey is true, she wouldn't actually become the person that she's meant to be. And they kind of fast forwarded and showed me what that looks like, and I was like, now it all makes sense. You got to think about it down the road. Do you know what I mean? Because one day, Stephanie's daughter will have this experience, this story to tell, just like my daughter will have her story to tell. And, and if it's true that my daughter is here to one day become a doctor who will find a cure for the condition that she has and treat children, which is what I was shown in Medicine Space, she's not going to be legit with those kids unless she can tell them, I've been where you are. I know what you're going through, and I'm going to help you. this is why I'm here. And I, when I was shown that, it was like it just sent chills all the way down my spine. Like, I don't want to take that away from her, right? Anyway, just something for you to think about, and something for you to meditate on in other relationships and other parts of your life, because sometimes we see people suffer and we just want to save them, right? But sometimes when we try to save people, we end up like not allowing them to fulfill some of the basic terms of the contract that they're here to enact, right? And I see all of you, Lorian with her twins. Mm-hmm. And how massive is that for Lorian to say, I am finally at peace with their passing. Like, just, I bow to you, you know? It's not, I'm not saying any of this is easy, and I'm not saying it even makes all that much sense. But I share this with you just for a little bit of perspective, because I'll tell you something, nobody ever said this to me. And even me going through this with her 3 or 4 years ago, I just wish I'd had a little bit of this in my ear. You know what I mean? Because at the time, I couldn't see that perspective. And I just felt like if I was a good mom, I'd be able to get her out of this. If I was a good healer, I'd be able to get her out of this. That's the tape that was playing, right? Instead of the tape of, you are a good healer and a good mom. She's here with her own independent soul contract. Please do your best, but don't stand in the middle of the street. Because we've got this, and it isn't about you. And if I had heard a little bit more of that, or if I'd been able to integrate that, the whole experience would have been different for me, candidly. So thank you for your question. I really appreciate it. And hopefully that helps you, Sarah. I really hope it does. You're there to nurture, protect, take care, set the stage, provide. You are not there to be uniquely responsible for every single aspect of the challenges of those children's lives, because they chose to come here and do this work with you and with them, with their dads. Ashley Hart, ever since I was little, waking up has been the hardest part of my day. You sound like Zoe. A girl will not get out of bed. No matter how much sleep I get, I'm exhausted in the morning. I have a hard time distinguishing that there's a reality I need to wake up to, often feeling stuck in or tied to the outcome of my dream. It's interesting. So this is lucid dreaming. Why might I struggle so hard to wake up every day and leave the dream space? You're doing work. There are people who need more sleep than others. And it's because of the work that they're doing. And again, that's something that I didn't know. I kind of thought everybody needed the same amount of sleep. And so it's like, well, why aren't you waking up? Or you need to wake up. Or, you know, because in our culture, we think like the sun comes up, you wake up, the sun goes down, you lay down, or whatever. But like, that's not, dream time is your spiritual university that you didn't sign up for. But guess what? You're there. And, maybe you're taking more complicated classes right now. Maybe your professor went overtime and didn't want to let you out of the classroom. You're working shit out in a great place. It's safe for you to work it out there, right? It's true, you're working. It's really hard work. I always tease Zoe in the morning, or like at noon when she gets out of bed. I'm always like, working hard or hardly working there, kid? You know, because she has these like incredibly vivid dreams. She can recount every detail, right? I mean, she's not in school right now, so I don't care. When she's not in school, I let her run her own sleep cycle. Okay. Holden, I know it's possible to astral travel while dreaming or dream walk into other people's dreams. My question is about what I used to experience often while sleeping and still happens occasionally. From my late teens and early 20s until I first started to consciously astral travel and use protocols for protection, I would wake up in the morning exhausted like I'd run a marathon. I've heard some of you say this too. Occasionally I would wake up in the middle of the night covered in sweat and with panic, feeling like I was being attacked. Since starting to intentionally astral project and do healing work in the astral, I have not had these experiences nearly as often. Heavy astral work can drain me, but I feel guarded and held during my time. So that's the intention piece, right? I now do a series of things to make sure I'm protected while sleeping in case I astral project unintentionally. I feel like I used to astral project unintentionally often while sleeping and was not protected in any way. Okay. Long backstory, but my question was I being attacked or fighting in the astral before I was aware of it? And do you believe guides will use the astral dream space as a training area for development because of the level of energy at play so the body's not harmed? That's a juicy question. I want to know if I was being trained or if I was being attacked. If I was being attacked, did my guides allow this as part of my training? It's a profound, profound question. Yeah, the golden thread is this idea that there's a tether, right, that always connects you. I believe in the golden thread. I actually believe the golden thread is with you at birth and death. Because the story that my mom told, and I've shared this with you many times, but like when my aunt was leaving her body, my mom was the only one in the room, and my mom literally saw her, like, here's her body, literally saw her spirit, come out of the body and then move through the door. And the way my mom describes it is a long thread. And around that thread she drew a Merkaba. And then she said inside the Merkaba, she could see like a hologram of my aunt. But like see-through, right? And then that thing, so it came up out of the body and was spinning and then spun out the door. And so I believe that's the golden thread too. I think that's your tether between dimensions. And that's why I always tell people, and I will tell you this too, do your work, you know what I mean? Do your infrastructure, your setting up, your protection, do all of that. But remember, you're not holding the thread. In my experience, when I was young, I wanted to, like, now I don't want to. When I go into plant ceremony, I'm always like, I just want to see what I need to see. I'm very conservative. But when I was young, I wanted to throw that door open. I wanted to see it all. And part of me wanted to, I know this sounds weird, but when I was young, part of me wanted to push the limit. Part of me wanted to know how far I could push it as a human. When you're young, you like want to push the rules, and when you're older, you're like, back up the truck. And I remember being frustrated because what I realized as a young person trying to push the boundary is that I couldn't push the boundary because I'm not holding the string. So that actually ironically makes me feel much more safe as an adult because you're not going to be able to go too far, in my experience. That's what I've learned, at least in terms of spiritual work. You're not going to be able to push it too far because there's someone like this going, I've still got your thread, right? And that's what I call God or source or creator, or, all that is, right? So my answer to you, Holden, though, is maybe a possibility you haven't considered because you didn't use the word in your question, but I'm going to give it to you. And that word is initiation. I do believe in the concept of a spiritual initiation. And that can look like a lot of different things. The only time people talk about initiation in spiritual contexts is priestess initiation and shamanic initiation. As the only two, in all my years of work, I don't know if you've seen it in other contexts, but I've only seen it in the context of high priestess initiation and shamanic initiation. I don't like really just defining it in those terms because I think there are other types of initiations that happen. I think there's micro initiations, little ones, and macro initiations, big ones, right? And so I think some of those dreams you were having may have been something of an initiation. Initiation in the sense of, like, initiate means to begin, right? So initiation is usually the crossing of a threshold or the opening of a gate between one stage of your development and the next. Does that make sense? So that's what came to me, Holden, when I was reading your question, is I think you may have been experiencing some sort of micro-initiation. And I would so love to know your response to that, like if that resonates, doesn't resonate with you. But there is kind of like a warrior initiation energy thing happening there. And to Lynette's point, remember, the difference between attack and training is your perspective. Initiations don't feel good, generally. Initiations are like Hunger Games. You know what I mean? Like, let's see what she does here, kind of thing. And it's like, and they never happen when you think you're ready. It's not like, I'm ready for my next step. It's always like, no, I'm good. I'm comfortable. Leave me here. And then universe is like, boom, right? So I think ultimately it may have been some sort of initiation, and I think the distinction again between training and attack is probably perspective. Whew. So, and others who are here can share their perspectives as well. He invited you to share, actually. It says, I would really want to hear from you. Oh, I thought you said he was welcoming. Okay, and intuitive hits you may have had about this. Okay, good. Okay, from MJ. I'm going to go for another 10 minutes or so, if that's okay, because we got interrupted, and I just kind of we're in the zone. So if you need to go because we were supposed to end at 3:30, I completely respect your time boundary, but I'm going to keep on trucking because I can. So I'm going to go with you for another 10 or 15 minutes right now. Interesting. Okay. MJ. Hola, Athena. Hola, MJ. Te amo mucho. She says, thank you for your amazing wisdom. Aw, te amo mucho. I was just about to read it before I said it to you, or after I said it to you. My question is about REM sleep. When it comes to your dreams and REM sleep patterns, does it matter how much time you're in REM sleep, or is it like Einstein's theory of relativity? Grab hold of a hot pan, a second can seem like an hour. Put your hands on a hot man or woman, an hour can seem like a second. Isn't that true? Have you ever had your hands on a hot man or woman? Sure can seem like a second. Oh, and then I'll come back to that, Karen. I didn't realize that part had cut out, so thank you for that. Okay. Got distracted with the hot man or woman thing. MJ, you little temptress, you. So she asked, does it matter how much time you're in REM sleep? I don't think it does. And you can REM sleep, like REM sleep generally starts 60 minutes into the process. And the first REM sleep cycle is usually about 10 or 15 minutes. So if you think about it, if you take an hour and a half nap, you could actually be kind of waking up from your nap in the thick of REM sleep, which kind of explains sometimes. Do you ever have a really deep nap where you're like, wow, that was deep? Almost like you got enough rest in 90 minutes, like more sometimes than you even do in an 8-hour night's sleep. I mean, I have that all the time. Not that I nap very often, but when I do, it's usually like real good. You know what I mean? And so anyway, that's I think what we're talking about is, you could have a REM cycle in a nap, and you can also have no REM cycles in a whole night. Both of those things are possibilities. And so it doesn't matter how long you're sleeping. It's more about, are you in a deep enough state of relaxation? Is your body really allowing itself to relax and shut down? And then again, you can see the effects of sleep deprivation over time of people who don't have a REM cycle. Now, just because you can't remember doesn't mean you didn't have a REM cycle. It's very possible not to remember your dreams. I don't know, and it's a great question, Lynette. I don't know if the sleep tracker apps work. Has anybody tried it? I have not tried it because I don't like apps. I'm so old school. And people are always like, there's an app for that. I'm like, ooh, I don't want to do that. But anyway, if they do work well, I'd be keen to try it and give it a go. So I hope that helps and answers your question. Let me go back to Karen Brown's request real quick. Yeah, I don't want anything on me. Like if it's something I have to wear or anything like that, that shit's not going to happen. I'm just telling you right now. Like if it's hard or I have to put it on or it's uncomfortable or anything like that, like that will stay in the box and be returned to its source. Yeah, I don't want shit on me when I'm sleeping. But anyway, so I was talking before about when you meet someone that you recognize from a past life. And every time that has happened to me, as soon as I've made eye contact with that person, and it's happened with men and women, and what's interesting is in only one case did it end up materializing in some kind of like physical relationship. The rest of those connections ended up being either a friendship or somebody like I kind of lost track with after a little bit of time. They weren't, in other words, that doesn't always mean that you're like, now you found this person and now you're going to be with them and it's like your forever person. It's like you're really just there to get the hit and then to start cycling through the past life memories. They're there as a trigger point, right? And so they bring in that wisdom. But every single time the same thing happened, which is I look in the eyes, it's like a holy shit moment. And then all of a sudden it's like I lose track of where I am, what I'm doing, and then everything around that person other than the eyes like is gone. And I've had multiple experiences like that, and it's crazy. I remember having it in a store once. This was like, I don't know. I mean, this is a long time ago, 25 years, 30 years maybe now. How old was I? I think I was like 18. So yeah, 19, I think I was 19. And I remember I was in a store when it happened, and locked eyes with the person at the cash register. And I remember people being frustrated in line. I totally remember that. Just like, and people being like, excuse us, like, are you finished checking out? Like, what's happening here? This is weird. Because I wasn't saying anything. It was just like, all of a sudden I was paralyzed. Set an intention. Tell your spirit guides it's okay to show you through another human, right? It's kind of fun, especially when the other person recognizes it too. It's like, I think I know you, except I totally don't know you, except I totally do know you. And then it's like, so what are we gonna do? Yeah, in this case, that person did recognize me. It was the craziest thing. I totally remember it. And it didn't end up materializing in a relationship or anything. When I was 14, it did. I was on the flag squad in high school, and we were getting ready to go and cheer at a football game. I was 14, and it was the first football game, and it was an away game, so we had to take a bus from my high school. And I remember I was walking toward the bus, and I was talking to somebody else, and I turned around, and I saw him walking toward me, and he saw me, and that was it. And that was the beginning of a decades-long relationship. Insane. And he knew it too. It was just like, whoop. I've often thought to myself, I hope Zoe's moments like that, and especially the big one, like the big one, I hope they don't happen when she's 14. I hope the universe waits just a little bit longer. I look at her now and I think, she's 11, you know what I mean? Like, she's nowhere near being ready for having her socks knocked off. Because I was inseparable from that man after that for a long time. So, were you 14? Something else, man. It was like, whoo. Still gives me chills up my spine to think about it. Really cool, right? Okay. Let's see. Let me do one more here. Tracy Kennedy, I'm praying for some insight on one of my dreams in class. I'll post here. My son, he was 12 when I had the dream. He's currently 14, and in the dream he was around 5. Still remember like it was yesterday. He was with my grandmother for the weekend when she calls to tell me she's taking him to the hospital. I get there. It's a children's area. I keep repeating to the nurses, where's my son? I could feel they were keeping me away from him as he was serving a higher purpose. They had soothing, otherworldly voices. One nurse walked into the hallway holding him. She set him down, and he vanished behind her, completely disappeared. I walk urgently room to room asking every kid, where is Quentin? Have you seen Quentin? None of them respond. Finally, I get to a bed with the covers over a kid's head. As I was approaching, I was still asking where he is, who had seen him. I slowly pull the covers back from this girl's head, and she opens her eyes and in pure bliss says to me, he's showing us the way home. As she was telling me that, there was a strange moment under the cover in her tummy area, and Quentin appeared out of her tummy as his soul then turned into his body and quickly disappeared again, off to the next kid. What does this mean? What kind of god or goddess archetype or energy is this? He's gifted, but no clue in what way, aside from being empathetic. His chart is packed full of spiritual gifts. Here he is with my Nina ballerina. Oh, I love that. So, I mean, there's a lot of imagery and metaphor and birthing and rebirthing and recycling and life and death and all of these things. I think part of this is primal maternal. There is something in us as mothers about tracking our children. And I've known a lot of moms who've had dreams where it's like they're trying to find their child, or they can't find their child, or they're tracking their child, and they're getting their heart is pounding and all these things. Like, there is this primal, no matter how you slice it, there is a primal tether between a mother and her child. And I'm not saying I don't think that that's true with fathers, but I think it's different. It's not any more or less powerful. It's just different. And I think it's the umbilical cord. having said that, I have seen that primal energy transfer from birth mother to adoptive mother. So I have seen the same primal urgency even when the child did not come from the womb of that mother. So it's got to be energetic, because I don't think there's any difference between a birth mother and an adoptive mother in terms of that, like it's almost crazy making. You know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? Those of you who are moms, like it'll drive you flipping nuts. I'm not saying this is a good thing. I mean, honestly, it can become a form of neurosis, right? And my mom was very overprotective because of how she grew up, and I always felt like it was just like a chain, between me and her. It's very, very, very challenging. So I think this is what we call a tracking dream. You know what I mean? Where you're trying to find, can't find, and you find, and it's what you find is a loop to the next thing that isn't the next thing that isn't the next thing, and it's this reminder, this sort of primal tracking energy. Tracking is actually a spiritual gift. I actually made a perfume called Track once, and it's what's really funny is I don't have any anymore, and I saw somebody. It was not recently, it was a while ago, in the perfume group trying to trade her bottle of Track, and part of me was like, wait, I want Track. I almost asked her if I could trade her something for it. It's a really good one, and there's some really powerful essential oils in there in support of that energy stream, and the Track's a good one. Yeah, keep Track, it's really good, and I don't have any more, so I actually have traded with people in the perfume trading group. I'm sure you know that, but there are certain perfumes that are old and I can't make them anymore, and I just want to smell them again, and I don't have any way to do that. So I've actually gone back and traded with people. Are you serious? Candace said Heidi Scout, and she had a whole chat about Track. It's so flippin' funny. Flippin' funny. Yeah, there's pictures of it. I'll post a picture of it. I mean, it's just, if you have it, that is so weird that you had that conversation, because this was like 3 years ago. Track's old. It's not new. And I had like 10 drops left in my bottle, you know what I mean? And I went ahead and used it. I'm like, I can make more, and then it's like, I don't know if I can make more. Shit. Let me go to the perfume trading group. So anyway, I'm telling you all this because tracking is a spiritual gift. I've told you many times about my friend who used to work for the government, right? And because she does coordinate tracking, and so she can do remote viewing and remote locating by coordinates. So she used to work with the FBI and different government agencies as a tracker. This was back in the 80s, and very successfully so, by the way. And so there are people with that gift. I can't track coordinates; it's not my gift. I haven't really tried, but she was shown that this was her gift. So, and then she was able to do it very successfully afterward. Can you track a future partner you have been shown in Journey with Track? You can, but be careful. Just be careful with Will. You just want to be careful that you don't influence Will. You know what I mean? That is the one. There are certain cardinal. Principles in the universe, right? And one of them for me is the violation of human will and sovereignty. And so it's that's why I always tell people, like, it's okay to like call in a partner, but you don't want to be tracking Bob. You know what I mean? Like Bob needs to have free will, and you know what I mean? If Bob doesn't want you, when I was younger, and I mean super, super young, we all go through these phases. It's like, but I want him. I don't want anybody else. I just want him. And it's like, yeah, but if he doesn't want you back, woo, baby. Energetically, yikes, right? So you've been shown him, never met him. So yeah, you can work with like the image, the hologram or whatever you've been given. But like, let's just say you'd been shown like Bobby Joe Jones, who lives at 12 Memory Lane. You don't want to track Bobby Joe Jones at 12 Memory Lane. But you can track this picture of Bob that you were shown in your, you know what I mean? It's such a fun conversation. Okay, let me see if I can dig into one more. Ashley Jordan, by the way, so she was asking about a semi-conscious sleep state, like a in-between state, and the name for that liminal space is well, I mean, that is lucid dreaming. And there actually is a time between the REM cycles that feels like this. Like you're not in the dream, but you're not awake, right? Especially as you're going into the REM cycle, Ashley, and coming out of the REM cycle, it will feel like that, like it's an in-between place. So that's the answer to your question. Kayla Hoopenthal, and then I'll end here because the next section is on energetic boundaries. So I'm going to pick up with Sandra Corner tomorrow in the audio, and that'll take me right through your questions on boundaries and priestessing. Thank you all for your questions, by the way. Again, I'm really looking forward to responding to them. They were fantastic. They always are, but I just want to say thank you because it's I enjoy this. This is one of my favorite parts of Soul Shift is this back and forth with your questions, and so I'm really grateful for them. So she said, I go through weird phases with my sleep, phases of how I have to lay to be comfortable enough to fall asleep, or I wake up with a really sore back or major headaches from clenching my jaw. I haven't found a pattern with it, but I'm wondering about suggestions as to why this happens or what can help, especially with the headaches. So there are actually headaches called hypnic headaches. Hypnic, of course, comes from the word hypnos, which is who is the father of Morpheus, right? So hypnos in Greek is the father of the god of sleep. So hypnic headaches are a thing, and there are different things that people do. Some people, take just a very low dose of a ibuprofen or a Tylenol before they go to sleep if they really struggle long term over time. I'm not a huge fan of what they call the NSAIDs, the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. And I don't like the idea of being on medicine persistently for anything anyway. But I'm just saying to you, like some people do with hypnic headaches, because they're frustrating. I would actually talk to a doctor about it if you're consistently having these headaches. It could be related to your jaw and a position, right? Because obviously that can cause tension. But there could be something else going on that could be leading. Now, Vanessa said, I sleep with a clenched jaw when I'm really stressed, had a lot of headaches. I used to use those little plastic guards from Target to sleep. That's interesting. And grinding too. I'm not a jaw clencher, but I know literally hundreds of people who are, and a big chunk of my family has to sleep with the sleep guards and stuff. Because they start grinding their teeth and they start getting these like really big tension things. So think about all of those as options too. But I did want to mention to you the hypnic headache because there is actually a headache that can be produced from the REM state. Interestingly enough, and it has a name and it's a thing, and then you could go from there in terms of finding ways to address that and work with that. Did you have fun with me today? I had fun with you today. I really, really do. Or I really, really did. Can you work with track along with entrainment as we discussed yesterday? What a brilliant idea, Candace. Maybe that's why this is coming up right now. Because yesterday's class was really all about entrainment, right? I mean, it's about aligning to different energy streams and doing that with intention. And I really love the idea of working with track perfume as sort of like a, the aromatherapeutic guide for that process. I actually think that's brilliant. Now you're making me think I gotta find the ingredients for track. Gotta track the track. It's really interesting to read your comments about this too. So I'm glad that you enjoyed it. I'm glad that you found it interesting. So part 2, I will be recording. Alexis can tell you about the protocol because she will as soon as that. So when I record it, I send the audio to Alexis and Claire. They do the processing of it and then share it with you. And like I said, my goal is to have that done for you in the morning. I have a meeting at 10 in the morning actually to talk about 2021 programs. But I'm going to try to get up really super early and record this for you before that. If I don't for any reason, then I'll be recording it in the afternoon. It may be as late as Monday that you get the audio because I don't like my team to work on the weekend too much. So it may be Monday, but I will do my best to get this ready for you in the morning. I'm so glad. Lynette said this is her favorite time of the month. I love that too. Yeah, and I love seeing you guys support each other and encourage each other too. So we had a couple of action items coming out of today, right? So Alexis is putting the post in the group. Those of you who do QHHT or past life regression therapy, it'd be really great if you could just kind of mention your name there. That way, if anybody's looking to do that work, they can, feel into whether that's a right relationship. So I think that would be really great to do. Oh, this is great. And then she said there's a post on from Monday welcoming the new members, or there will be a post on Monday welcoming new members, and then it'll teach you how to submit questions for August. And then what I would do, honestly, is I would make a little note to yourself, because a lot of times people forget. They have the intention to ask a question, and then it's like by the time they, the end of the month, they're like, shit, I didn't ask a question again. So maybe just make a little like reminder on your calendar for that first week of August. And then don't forget we have ceremony. So I won't see you tomorrow, but I will see you Saturday. We have Llama ceremony at 6 p.m. So I hope you can join me. I'll be live on YouTube. And then we'll be back to our programming on Monday. We have gem sale next week. Me and Barbara. We have session 1 of Soul Shift. So next week you'll see me Saturday. I think there might be something on Monday. I can't remember. Then you'll see me Tuesday, Wednesday. There's something Thursday, I think. Oh, yeah. Is it full moon on Monday? That's right. It's on the 3rd. That's right. So Saturday is Llamas. Monday's full moon. Tuesday is gem sale. Wednesday is class. Thursday is something else. I can't remember. So anyway, don't get burned out. Stay with me. I need you. I do worry about that sometimes when we have these weeks. I'm like, hey, guess who? But then we have some weeks where you don't see me very much. So hopefully you detox, and then, this gets exciting for you again. So anyway, love you guys. I'll look forward to seeing you.